Okay, that's better. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Lal, and this is going to be the expedited accusation calendar with the State Court of Fulton County. This is a list of criminal misdemeanor cases involving individuals who were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Soon thereafter, the cases were formally accused by the prosecutor, which is the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County. When I call your case, I will let you know what is your new accusation number, what are the charges brought against you, who's going to be your appointed counsel if one is required, as well as to set a bond and give you a court date. Good afternoon, Ms. Bridgewater. What court date do we have today?
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. It's going to be March the 5th.
Okay, thank you. With regards to setting a bond, if one has not been previously set or if your bond is subject to modification, some of you may possibly qualify for what we call a signature bond. That is a bond that is provided to you through the jail or through pretrial services. A signature bond is one in which you would not have to pay for the bond today, but you must comply with certain conditions. Failure to comply can result in your bond being revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. Others may qualify for a cash or surety bond. Those type of bonds you would have to pay in order to secure your release, and that payment must be done either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. In either event, if you are charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. Okay, if you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. Okay, Ms. Atay, who do we have seated next to you?
Travis Allen, I think he's position 1.
All right. Mr. Allen's accusation is 24 CR 836, accused of theft by shoplifting and criminal trespass from February 20th, 2024. Mr. Allen, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Atay. Mr. Howard, good afternoon. Any priors?
Hey, 20 total. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
20 total. 2023 terrorist threats conviction. He's on probation for that until 2025 out of DeKalb County. Has a DeKalb County hold. 2023 FTA trespass conviction. Got another arrest for terrorist threats from 2022. He's on first offender probation for that until 2027. FTAs from 2021, 2022. You want me to keep on?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Okay, just to be clear, Your Honor, I'm showing that he has 2 convictions. Looks like he caught them on January 16, 2024. One is for criminal trespass out of DeKalb, and then the other one is for terroristic threats and acts, which is a misdemeanor out of DeKalb. He's doubly on probation. But the brief facts of this case is that on February 20th, 2024, the officer responded to an officer needing help call at 950 West Peachtree Street Northwest here in Fulton County, Georgia. That is the Publix location. The officer on scene stated that the defendant had been trespassed from the location previously for a shoplifting, to which he provided the case number, and that the defendant had returned to the location and went to the fresh made aisle and grabbed food and ran out of the store. The items were spicy tuna rolls, some wine, and a 20-pack of wings. The recommendation from the state, given his criminal history, Your Honor, is a $1,500 surety bond. That would be $1,000 on the shoplifting, $500 on the criminal trespass, for him to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and for him to stay away from that location, which is the Publix.
Okay. Ms. Atay?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 32 years old. He has lived in Georgia all his life. He is residentially challenged. I understand he has some history, but he cannot afford a bond, and he does have the DeKalb County hold. I would ask, Your Honor, for a signature bond through pretrial services. Of course, a stay away from the Publix is fine. He cannot afford a $1,500 surety bond or any surety bond. Nothing further.
Bond is set at $250 on each count. It's a $500 surety. To stay away from the Publix at 950 West Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia, and to also stay away from all Publix grocery stores in Fulton County, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms. His next court date is March 5th. Thank you.
Your next board meeting is March.
Next position is number 9, Ms. Phillips.
Right.
Phillips? Yes, come on.
This is Kiera Phillips, accused of simple battery family violence from December 6, 2023. Ms. Phillips, your accusation is 24 CR 850. Your counsel is Ms. Judy, Ms. J. Kim, excuse me.
Your Honor, actually, I was going to ask for breakout room for her MH issue.
All right, can we leave that towards the end of the calendar due
Your
to
Honor.
the fact that you are in a, yes, Mr. Walker?
I think we can get through the hearing. I was gonna mention that or I think we can get through the hearing without the breakout. I'm asking for a signature bond. I think it'll be fairly simple.
Okay.
All right, what is the state agreeing to?
We're gonna be asking for a signature bond through pretrial services. We are gonna ask that she has no further violent contact with her mother, Ms. Karen Smith, who is on the line. We're gonna ask that she remains compliant with any treatment plan that may be in place. No weapon, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond. Nothing further from the state at this time, and I'm not sure if the victim, Ms. Smith, would like to speak, but mom/victim is on the line.
Ms. Karen Smith, the prosecutor is agreeing to have her released on a signature bond, which means she doesn't have to pay for the bond. You can pick her up at the jail after 24 hours, and if you want her to continue living with you or have contact with you, it just cannot involve any physical or verbal altercations. Furthermore, she has to be compliant with any ongoing treatment that she's receiving, including counseling or medication. Do you have any objection to those conditions?
No, Your Honor, I do not. And for the record, she didn't need to hit me with anything.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim, any objection to the recommendation?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right. Bond is set at 1,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. Miss Kiera Phillips,
Yes, ma'am.
excuse me. I'm not sure if I'm going to
Bless you.
sneeze, but all right, Miss Kiera Phillips, you're going to have to report to pretrial once a month. You may have contact with Karen Smith, but there cannot be any physical or verbal altercations that might involve the police again. Your next court date will be set to your current mailing address. Make sure you update us with any changes in your mail and your address or contact information. You are also to be compliant with any ongoing treatment that you're receiving. And if you're not, there's the requirement that you undergo a MH evaluation and undergo any treatment or medication as required. Ms. Bridgewater, we're going to put that down as an MHET requirement of a pretrial bond. Ms. Smith, Karen Smith, Kiera Phillips will have to go through an MH evaluation and undergo any treatment as required by the evaluator. Understood?
Your
Yes.
Honor, actually, we
She's
were
already done it.
MHET because she already has everything set up outside of the jail.
Okay.
Right here.
As I said, it's in lieu if she doesn't have an ongoing plan in place.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Her next court date will be sent to her address. Thank you.
thank you.
We're gonna do position 10. Oh, wait.
Wendell Redden is position 10, case number 24 CR 851, accused of theft by shoplifting and possession and use of a drug-related object. Incident date is February 20th, 2024 in Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Redden, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howell?
27 total. 2024 shoplifting, felony shoplifting arrest. 2020 simple battery DV. 2020 shoplifting. 2012 trespass, shoplifting conviction. 2012 theft by taking conviction. 2010 criminal damage to property, theft by taking, obstruction, entering auto conviction.
How many shoplifting convictions so far? I've got 2.
I didn't count them.
All right,
The
thank
state
you.
is aware of the history. With Odyssey being down, we have to track down the dispositions before we could transfer, but we're on the same page, Your Honor. In this case, the defendant was arrested at 605 Boulevard Avenue. That's a store that's owned by the victim, Mr. Amir Samnani. SAMNANI. The defendant did steal candy and 3 bottles of wine from that location. We are asking for $1,000 surety bond, a stay away from the incident location, no weapon, drugs, or alcohol while on bond.
What's that location? It's
It's
a
a store. The warrant
package
didn't include,
store?
I don't think it's a package store, but the warrant did not include the name of the store. They put down the store owner. But it's I believe some type of convenience store at 605 Boulevard Avenue. And again, the owner's name is Amir Simnani, or SAMNANI.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, it is Amico Fuel Station. The location is, and my client, Mr. Redden, is 56 years old, and he is very challenged financially. Currently, he is going through homelessness, and he does not have a solid job as of now. And he does get treatment from Grady, and we would like to request for signature on bond through pretrial level 3. He does have his brother who can support him if possible. However, I don't think that he can get, he's not gonna bail him out. So any bond will be no bond for him.
All right. Mr. Walker, according to the warrant, what were the items that were allegedly being shoplifted?
3 bottles of wine, Reese's Pieces.
Negative. Negative. Potato chips.
On the theft by shoplifting, it's going to be $750. On the possession and use of drug-related objects, $250. Total bond is $1,000. It is a surety bond. To stay 200 yards away from the Amico gas station at 605 Boulevard Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Next court date is going to be March 5th. Thank you. He doesn't qualify for a signature bond. He has a significant criminal record history, and he's got an open felony shoplifting case.
Yeah.
Next case, please.
Position number 5.
This is State versus Shakur Devine, accused of simple battery from January 17th, 2024. Accusation is now 24 CR 841. Mr. Devine, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Atay. Any priors?
12 total. 2012 contempt of court, 2012 trespass, 09 assault conviction.
Thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Brief facts of the case is that on Monday, February 19, 2024, the officer, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one.
Yes, sir.
My apologies.
Yeah, for you.
Switch screens. I found it. My apologies. The facts of this case is that on January 17, 2024, the officer responded to 3433 Bobby Brown Parkway, which is the home 2 suites in East Point, Fulton County, Georgia, 30344, in regards to a fight call. Upon arrival, the officer met with the manager, who is the victim in this case, Mr. Rayfield Lakes, Rayfiled, Field, sorry, Lakes, who stated that an employee, the defendant, grabbed him by the neck and assaulted him. The victim stated that he met with the defendant while at work to discuss his performance and advised that he was being terminated from the job. He stated that while speaking with the defendant, he became upset, and so he advised the defendant that he was being fired. And due to him getting angry, he advised that he could now leave the property and he would email him his separation letter. The victim stated that he stood up to walk away, but the defendant flinched towards him as if he was going to hit him. He stated that the defendant then grabbed him by the neck with a tight grip and yelled at him. He stated that the defendant grabbed his neck and shortly released him and left the property. The entire incident was captured on surveillance video, Your Honor. Our office was fortunate enough to be able to get in contact with the victim in this case, who states that he is in fact the general manager of the Hotel 2 Suites, where the defendant was an employee. He confirmed the events in the warrant. He stated that the defendant did, in fact, place his hands around his neck and apply pressure, and that he did have difficulty in breathing, although he did not lose consciousness. He stated that this is not the first time that the defendant had been aggressive towards him, but that it's the first time that he obviously placed his hands on him. The victim stated that he has not seen or spoken to the defendant since the incident. He states that he does not want contact with the defendant and that he wants him to stay away from the hotel. I do believe that he may be on the call, so if we could sound for him in accordance with Marcy's law. The recommendation from the state is $1,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no contact with the victim, a stay away from the incident location, and the completion of an anger awareness course. And if we can, Mr. Lakes in accordance with Marcy's law, or Lake in accordance with Marcy's law, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Mr. Ray Fields Lake, are you present? All right. Ms. Atay?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 50 years old. He has lived in Georgia over 20 years. I think you heard that he has very, very little criminal history. He was gainfully employed as a security guard. He, of course, has lost that job, but he does deny the allegations in the warrant. And this incident occurred allegedly about more than a month ago. I would ask, due to the very limited criminal history, and, you know, for a signature bond through pretrial services, and nothing further.
Bond is set at $1,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. He must report to pretrial once a month. He's to have no further contact with Ray Fields Lake and stay away from the Hotel 2 Suites property at 3433, was it Bobby Brown Boulevard?
Parkway.
Parkway, okay. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. He must make sure that his address and contact information are current with the court at all times. And if he gets arrested again or does not report to pretrial or does not report to court, his signature bond will be revoked. Thank you. Next case, please.
Position 12, I'm sorry, position 13, Fitzpatrick.
All right. Zakia Fitzpatrick has got 2 charges: criminal trespass causing damage to property and giving false information to an officer. The accusation is 24 CR 845, stemming from a February 20th, 2024 incident in Fulton County, Georgia. Ms. Fitzpatrick, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your counsel is Mr. Keith Cook. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
Second arrest, 2023 simple battery, robbery, dismissed.
Thank you.
And a brief facts of the case is that on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, the officer was dispatched to 717 Lee Street Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, and Fulton County, Georgia, in reference to a vandalism call. Upon arrival, the officer spoke with the reporting party, Miss Brianna Kendall, who stated that a group of kids forced their way into a vacant apartment. The officer arrived at said unit, and a group of teenagers were coming out of the apartment. The defendant was identified as the teenager who entered the apartment. She gave a false name several times. That name was Diamond Henry, and a false date of birth onto the police officer when she was identified. Your Honor, the recommendation from the state in this case is a signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and a stay away from that incident location. Nothing further to add at this time from the state.
All right. Mr. Cook, I'll need a co-signer.
Yes, Your Honor, this kind of came up fairly late. So I'd been on the phone. I did contact her dad, who has texted me that he can co-sign. I sent him the Zoom meeting information. I don't think he's made it on. Her dad's name is Rashid Frazier.
Spelled
So
Rashid.
RASHEED.
Last name?
And the last name is Frazier, FRAZIER.
And with whom does she live?
She lives with both parents, her mother and her dad.
So her mother and her father cohabitate on the same address?
No, they got different addresses.
They have different addresses, but she moves, she kind of goes
They
back
up the
and
street
forth.
from each other.
They live on the same street.
Or I can keep her in jail until she figures out, tells me, gives me a straight answer where she lives and with whom.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah,
do you
I
ready?
don't have any problem keeping her in jail
Okay.
unless she wants to come straight with us. With whom does she live and at what address?
You have here,
Who has guardianship for me? Mom.
okay, 3155 Hickman Drive.
Yeah.
3155 Hickman Drive, Atlanta 30311. Her mother has guardianship of her, and that's her mother's address.
So I'll need her mother's as a co-signer, the person who has guardianship over her.
Okay, well, I've called and left a message and texted her as well. I have not heard back from her.
Okay, what's her mother's name?
Angela Fitzpatrick.
Oh, that's easier to remember. Angela Fitzpatrick. Mr. Howard, on the criminal trespass causing damage to property is going to be 2,000. False information is 1,000. That's a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. And I need her mother, Angela Fitzpatrick, to co-sign. And just to be sure, the mother's address must match her residential address. So whatever ID she brings, there must be proof that young Zakia Fitzpatrick lives with her mother.
Yes, sir.
She is to stay away from 717 Lee Street in Atlanta, Georgia. Have no contact with Brianna Kendall. And is she currently attending school?
She is getting her GED at Atlanta Tech.
All right. She must show proof of enrollment at Atlanta Tech and that she's attending classes for her GED to her pretrial officer. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, no firearms. If she gets arrested again or if she violates any of the conditions of a bond, her $3,000 bond will be revoked and converted to a cash bond or a surety bond. Furthermore, she has a curfew. She's to be home by 6 o'clock in the evening and she can step out at 7 o'clock in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 6, McDowell.
Mr. Malcolm McDowell has been accused of battery, domestic violence from February 1st, 2024, under accusation 24 CR 847. Mr. Walker, that's the only charge, right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, just wanted to be sure. Mr. McDowell, this is the one offense brought against you. You have already been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howell?
No.
All right. This is not domestic violence or family violence, Mr. Walker. What's the
According to the
recommendation?
warrant, yes, according to the warrant, they do not reside together and they have no children together. And my understanding, this is a cross-defendant case. The cross-defendant was heard on another calendar. I guess this defendant was just arrested recently. We're asking for a signature bond through pretrial services, no contact with the cross-defendant, Antoinette Chapman. We are asking for a 2-day anger awareness course, no weapon, drugs, or alcohol while out on bond.
And he doesn't reside with Miss Chapman, correct?
According to the warrant, they do not reside together.
Okay. Mr. McDowell, any objections to the recommendation of a signature bond through pretrial, the stay away, no contact?
Mr. Cook, I thank you. You're addressing me.
I beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, were you addressing me, Your Honor?
Yes, I'm so sorry, Mr. Cook. Did I say Mr. McDowell? I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay.
I doubt he'll have an objection.
Don't
How do you
put
feel
me out
about
of
it?
a job, Your Honor. I really need it. No objection.
Contact she, in her case, she already said.
No contact, no contact, no contact.
No violence.
No contact. Yes, Your Honor, we're fine with that. Given that he has essentially no previous record, we would object to anger awareness.
Okay. Bond is set at $1,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. He will report to pretrial once a month. He is to undergo a one-day anger awareness program with pretrial services. He's to have no contact at all with Antoinette Chapman. That means to stay 200 yards away from her. Do not communicate with her in person, through mail, email, phone, computer, a third party, and even on social media. Until this case is resolved or another court order is entered allowing for no violent contact, he's to stay completely away from her. If he engages and communicates with her and the police get involved, he could risk losing his signature bond and be back in jail with either no bond or a cash bond or a surety bond. His next court date will be sent to his current mailing address. Please be sure that we have your current address at all times. No illegal drugs, no firearms, and no weapons. Thank you.
Position 12,
Mr. Albert Tarver is case 24 CR 842, accused of loitering or prowling on February 20th, 2024 in Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Tarver, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Kim. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
44,
Any,
2022,
go ahead.
2022 probation, 2021 probation, ag assault,
Oh.
2021 battery conviction, 2017 burglary first degree.
What year was that?
Which one?
The burglary,
17.
2017. Is he still on probation?
I just saw it as an arrest. I didn't see the disposition for it.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
All right. Mr.
Yes, Your
Walker?
Honor, law enforcement was dispatched to 555 Lucky Street. I believe that's a YMCA location. The defendant was caught stealing a bicycle tire off of a locked bicycle. He was charged with loitering. The state is asking for a $500 surety. Stay away from that instant location. No weapons, drugs, or alcohol while on bond.
Okay. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client, Mr. Tarver, is 52 years old. He was born and raised here in Georgia. He does have cousins. He is currently struggling. He is homeless. However, he does have a job at Sweet Lounge. It's at Marietta. He's going to be working as a dishwasher. So we would like to ask him to have a signature on bond so he can go out and start his job. And also he has a PAC program that he's been participating, and they should be willing to accept him again. So he has a mailing address and contact phone number, and we would like to request for signature on bond.
Okay. As a $2,000 signature bond through the jail to stay away from 555 Lucky Street. And if he gets arrested again for anything, make sure you bring $2,000 with you when you come back to jail.
Yes, ma'am.
No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
number 14, Harris.
Mr. Johnny Harris is accused of theft by shoplifting and willful obstruction of an officer allegedly occurring on February 19th, 2024 in Fulton County under accusation 24 CR 846. Mr. Harris, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
36 on probation in Clayton County, false imprisonment. 2017, they gave him 10 years probation. 2024 shoplifting NOLO. 2023 trespass shoplifting. He got a lot of probation violations. Got a 2017 ag stalking, kidnapping, battery DV, ag assault, robbery, arrest. 2014 stalking, harassing phone calls, terrorist threats conviction. That was out of Cobb.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pierre Thomason?
Yeah, and a brief facts of the case is that on February 19, 2024, the officer was flagged down by a security and loss prevention officer from inside of Walmart located at 844 Cleveland Avenue, East Point, 30344 in Fulton County, Georgia. In reference to a black male shoplifting, the officer was able to make contact with the defendant who was stopped at the front door from exiting the store with the shoplifting cart filled with items. The defendant was then asked to provide a receipt for the items, to which he was unable to do so, and at which point he took off running with the unpaid items. The officer eventually caught up to the defendant. The officer then met with the loss prevention officer, Samonte, Samonte, Holloway, Holloway, who showed the officer surveillance footage of the incident where the defendant could be seen or observed placing multiple items in his shopping cart without scanning or paying for them. The value of the items came to a total of $457.57, which is just shy of the $500 felony requirement. The defendant also provided a false name of Kenya Thomas at the time of arrest. Your Honor, given the idea that, I guess, prior to picking up this charge on February 19, 2024, he just pled guilty, NOLO, better yet, on February 5th, 2024, to a theft by shoplifting charge out of Atlanta. The state's request would be a $1,500 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and a stay away from that Walmart location, or really all Walmart locations. And the breakdown would be $1,000 on the count one, shoplifting, and $500 on the willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
Did you say the security officer is Selena Jennings?
No, it should
Okay.
be Samonte. Where is it at? Holloway.
Samantha Holly. Okay, I don't see someone there. I have a GM Home 2. Is that the general manager from the hotel Suites 2? All right, just wondering who the other individuals are on Zoom. Mr.
Yes, Judge, it is me.
All right, so
Thank
you can leave. We've addressed that case already.
Okay, thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
No problem. Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, we would have no objection to the, well, let me say this.
It's a $1,500 surety bond. That's no
Yes.
objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Given that it was it is shoplifting, we would ask for signature only bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate. We have no problem with any of the stay away issues.
Unfortunately, Mr. Harris's probation violations and his significant history doesn't qualify him for a signature bond. The theft by shoplifting is $1,000. The willful obstruction is $500. It's a $1,500 surety bond. Stay away from the Walmart at 844 Cleveland Avenue, as well as all other Walmart stores in Fulton County, Georgia. Is no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And his next court date is March 5th. Thank you.
Settle down.
Next case, please.
The other people that we have in the courtroom are not on the calendar. That's Mr. Richard Nelson, Jason McCord, Mr. Warren, and Sean Leckie. They are not on the calendar.
Okay. Position 2, Stephania Bell.
She's
What's
being
this?
interviewed right now. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
She's being interviewed right now? Okay. Position 3, Karen Call. If anybody can give me an update, Karen Call.
She's not bonded out, Judge.
She's what?
Bonded out. She bonded out.
So she's released. Okay, so that's further notice for trial. Aurelia Crombie.
Bonded out.
All right, position 4 is released. Further notice for trial.
Number 7 bonded out as well.
All right, Kovaris Morton is released for the notice for trial. And then I think we have a couple more. Deanna Nash.
Deanna Nash is at ACDC.
Okay. And then position 11, Arce Rodriguez Martinez.
ACDC.
All right. That's position 8 and 11 at ACDC.
I'm sorry, Judge, this, I was just told position number 11 is posted bond.
Oh, okay, position number 11, Arce Rodriguez Martinez is released. So that's further notice for trial. And then that leaves us with position 8 on the calendar. Now, I just see in the chat that Lucky and McCord are NODs. Are those individuals in the courtroom?
They are.
All right. Their misdemeanor charges have been closed out and dismissed. So if that's the only thing holding them, they can be released. Otherwise, they're not supposed to be on the calendar.
Okay, thank you.
Lucky and McCord. Then Anderson and Warren, are they in the courtroom?
No, Anderson.
Anderson and Warren will be with the PAD program, so the state will be submitting signature bonds, orders for those.
Okay,
All right. So
I
that
already
leaves
have
us-
those orders, Your Honor, for you to
All
sign.
right, thank you. That leaves us with position 2 and position 8.
Miss Nash, position 8, she's at ACDC.
All right, will she be appearing today or would I have to reset that?
They should have logged on. I'm not sure why they haven't. I'm not sure.
Okay. And Stepriania Bell, who's interviewing her? Miss Kim, Miss Atay?
Miss Atay is interviewing her as we speak.
All right. All right, so we've got the updates on Anderson and Warren with PAD. Lucky and McCord are NODs. Karen Stepriana Bell is being interviewed. So position number 1, Travis Allen is a surety bond, 500 surety, reset to March 5th. Position 2 is on hold. Position 3, Karen Call is released. 4, Aurelia Crumbly is released. Position 5, Shakur Devine is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 6, McDowell is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial. 7, Kovaris Morton is released for the notice. Position 8 is on hold from ACDC. Position 9, Phillips is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial. 10, Redden's a $1,000 surety, reset date March 5th. Position 11, Rodriguez Martinez is released for the notice. 12, Tarver is a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. 13, Fitzpatrick is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2 with a co-signer, Angela Fitzpatrick. 14, Johnny Harris is a $1,500 surety bond. So that brings us to position 2. Stepriania Bell. Ms. Bell is accused of 1 count of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, case number 24 CR 838. Ms. Bell, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Ms. Hoda Atay. Any priors on position 2?
Second arrest, 2022, simple battery DV. So it's level 2.
Your Honor, brief facts of the case is that the officer was patrolling the area of 1678 Howard Mill Road, Atlanta, Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia, when the officer witnessed a wanted person who happened to be Mr. Tyrus Daniel. Mr. Daniel was wanted out of Atlanta Police Department for possession of a stolen firearm that was allegedly stolen from inside of a vehicle that was broken into. Once that Mr. Daniel was detained, he asked his girlfriend, who is the defendant, to take something out of his hand, which would happen to be money. The defendant took the money out of his hand, and the officer asked her to give it to him so that he could ensure that there was no drugs, contraband weapons, or any other objects that was passed as well. But the defendant refused. The officer then demanded her to turn over what she claimed was just money, and she refused yet again. The officer then advised her if she did not turn over the money, that he would have to place her in under arrest, to which she refused yet again. After the officer told her to turn around and place her hands behind her back, she again refused. When the officer attempted to touch her wrist to place her in custody, she attempted to pull away and started to actively resist by way of pulling away and forcefully pulling her hands in front of her. The recommendation from the state, Your Honor, in regards to this matter is a signature bond through the jail, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
Mr. Tays, $1,000 signature bond through the jail. No illegal drugs and no weapons, and make sure she maintains a current address with the court at all times.
No objections, Your Honor.
All right,
We have a person that should have been added on, named Richard Nelson. He was here on Saturday. And we was told that they was gonna try to upgrade him, but he was never upgraded.
what may I have his first and last name?
First name is Richard. The last name is Nelson. Booking number is 240-2512.
Charges?
From the trespass, 2 counts.
And Mr. Pierre Thomas, Mr. Walker, do we have an accusation number?
No, Your Honor. And from my understanding, this was a felony first appearance on Saturday, and there were some warrants that were not handled. That reason, I'm not sure. It was not on our misdemeanor pool sheet. I received these warrants around 1:30 today, and it's a packet maybe of like warrants for 5 different cases. So with that being said, it's going to take some time for me to sort through this warrant packet because there's misdemeanor and felony charges mixed in. I don't know if he's made bond on his felony cases. If he hasn't, my suggestion will be that we hear it tomorrow so I can go through each of his warrants because it looks like it might need to be multiple cases. And to be frank, it's going to take some time.
I can reset the case till tomorrow. I can further notice it is $2,000 signature bond through the jail on each count.
And I think it might be more than 2 counts in.
Well,
think it
right
might
now,
be
we have
3
2 counts of, on the warrants that you have, which are the misdemeanor charges for 2 counts of criminal trespass?
So I have criminal trespass on different days, and my last count, I believe it was 3 different citations with 3 different dates. And as I stated, I was still going through the warrant pack because I just got this at 1:30.
Understood. And on Deputy, on your booking sheet, you have 2 counts of criminal trespass?
Yes.
Okay. Miss Kim, Miss Atay, or Mr. Cook? Have either of you spoken with him?
No, we didn't know about it until now.
Nelson?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
No, I interviewed him.
All right. Can you submit a proposed order under his booking number? And if you have the warrant numbers, on each count of criminal trespass is going to be $1,000 signature bond through the jail. If he's got a felony hold, I'll be glad to see him tomorrow. Otherwise, there'll be further notice for SAP.
So it's 2 counts of criminal trespass?
That's
or-
what we've got on his booking sheet.
So, all right.
But we can address him tomorrow once Mr. Walker has him accused.
So I think so for the felony case, do you have the case number? It's 24 PI 001158. I think he had a bond set there,
I won't be able to tell you. I can't access Odyssey.
or maybe Mr. Walker knows.
There's, like I said, there's a multiple warrants and there's multiple criminal trespasses with multiple dates. And I
Right.
haven't had time to go through everything, so I do
I'm
not-
just setting a bond on the 2 charges he's got on his booking sheet. But we can reset him to the tomorrow's calendar to address this accusation. But right now, this misdemeanor 2 counts are not holding him at the jail.
Okay,
So
And
if
I
you can submit a proposed order, just setting those bonds, and we will see him tomorrow at 2 o'clock unless he's released. Any questions, Ms. Atay?
is a signature bond?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, Mr. Walker?
Not from the state.
All right, okay,
Your
folks.
Honor, in lieu of our hold and waiting on ACDC, I believe that concludes my business with the court. May I be excused?
Yes, Mr. Pierre Thomas, you are certainly excused.
Thank you.
Deputy, any updates from ACDC?
No, ma'am, there's no update.
I don't
Mr.
have
Walker,
to-
do you know who we are holding on? No, position number 8. No, position number 8. Yes.
Yes, Nash. I don't have ACDC number, but deputy at the jail, can you give them a ring for us?
We're sending an email at this moment, stand by.
All right, we'll hold. Ms. Bridgewater, if you want to send me the current bond, that would be great. And we can pause the recording on the YouTube until ACDC rings on. Thank you.
Sending them now, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.